I'll go ahead and I will share my screen so you can see my slides. And Michelle gave me more of an introduction than I was going to say, which was just that we're going to talk about blogging tonight and creating content. And she's right. I've done marketing and writing for a really long time and was lucky enough to be able to turn it into a business. Sounds like I'm going to be talking way below many of your expertise. So there's going to be some things that we're going to talk about that are incredibly basic. I wanted to just come in prepared for all audiences. So hopefully some of you are going to have some takeaways. If you want to go deeper into anything, I love to do strategy calls with people. So you can go to contentjourney.com and we can have a 30-minute call and we can just talk about anything else that you would like to. If you want to learn more about SEO as well, we're doing a really fun SEO webinar tomorrow. And it's a much deeper dive into the technical aspects. So we can do that. So first, let's kind of do an overview about what we're going to talk about tonight and some statistics that I love sharing. So the importance of B2B content marketing in the last year. So this is just some really fun statistics that they went and talked to a bunch of business owners and they said, is it more important than it was the year before? Is it about the same or is it less important? And 71% are saying it's more important than it's ever been. And this is very specific of content marketing compared to other types of marketing, because marketing is a very huge bucket. And it's so large that when we talk about marketing, we're talking about a $475 billion pie. But our digital marketing piece of that pie is about $300 billion. Which is really hard to wrap our brain around. So I think it was Mickey who said that he's blogging almost every day, like creating all of this content. That's a piece of that $300 billion that's out there on the internet. That's driving business and part of this pie that's so important for consumers. Whenever we talk about digital marketing and specifically content, and Kenna on my team was getting on to me because this was from 2020. And she said, Lindsey, that's almost 3 years ago. I think it's still relevant data, but I'm sorry that it was almost 3 years ago. But when we look at this, we're saying like, what are the most commonly produced pieces of content for content marketing? And above and beyond everything else are blog articles. And I'm constantly asked if people still read blog content. It's something that our intern actually, I asked her after she's been with us, this is our second semester now, what's the number one thing you've learned at Content Journey? And she said that people still read blog articles. So she was very surprised that that is something that still drives business. And overwhelmingly it does. My answer is as long as people are using Google, using Bing, using a search engine to try to find an answer to their problem, but then we have to be able to give them content that they can read and consume. And obviously video and other forms of media are going to make that more robust, but at the end of the day, it's going to come vast majority in that in form of blogs. Now we can look at webinars and things that we're doing tonight. This is still content and it's going to create something that Michelle's going to put on a YouTube channel. We may even be able to take this and make it into an ebook later. But these are all other pieces of content that we can be created and provide value that go into our pie. And data is suggesting that it's just going to continue to grow. Any investments that we're making in content now, anything that we're writing and putting on the web now to build our business is going to continue to grow. We do this for our clients. We're going to do this as business initiatives, anything else. And revenues are set to double by the year 2026. So if we're looking at 66 billion of revenue reached, in early 2022, we're looking at that doubling in just a few years. And so this is something, a skill that we can continue to refine, something that we continue to invest in. You can look at the link at the below for my resources if you want to go read more about all of these statistics.
Lindsey?
Yeah.
This is Jim.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I just would like some clarification. when you
Sure.
talk about $66 billion for content marketing, is that because of content marketing, we drove $66 billion in sales? Or is that $66 billion is invested by people and businesses to reach audiences? Or is that
So
$66 billion firms like yours that are creating content? And which of those three is it?
we have our 300 billion is kind of a mix of all of those things. So our bigger pie is firms like mine and everybody else out there creating the things. And now we have the 66 billion that is the smaller piece of saying we're driving revenue on creating the content with the marketing agencies. So it's refining it more. So yes, good question. But it's
So
the
if I blog, I don't count in that. If you blog for me, you count in that.
correct. And the 66 billion, you would count in the 300 billion.
Got it. Understand that. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm going to make an update to those slides so that we're more clear next time. It's hard to wrap my head around all of the numbers. And there's some really good statistics out there, not just from Statista, but Content Marketing Institute does a really good end of year report as well. That's really fascinating. But it's why I'm obsessed with content marketing, is once we're investing in all of these activities and it's out there, it continues to grow and build on our business rather than disappearing. And that's our content marketing. So if anyone doesn't know what content marketing is, it's the process of creating and publishing content, which is targeted to a specific customer segment. Now, our content is typically going to be free. For sure, it is also considered gated content, but for the vast majority, our content marketing is free. It's intended to engage our customers, but obviously at the end result, we want them to purchase something or sell a service, or there's some kind of call to action at the end of it, but it usually starts out as some type of a free content. We are writing blogs, we're producing infographics, we're editing videos, and all of these require time, talent, and money in order to do it. We can go back to our person who's writing every single day and ask exactly how much time that takes and effort to continue to do that all of the time. And I'd love to hear some tips and tricks on how that's happening. But we also have to continue to create our content because there's all these ads out there that are disrupting our free content approach. And so, especially when we think about how Google has changed. And then if you follow Freakonomics on NPR, they did a really fascinating episode last week on ads in Google, and it was lovely. So you can go look up the episode. And when we talk about that, we're thinking about how the search engine results page has changed over time to where now it's like we have all of these paid ads that are coming in. We have the Google business page where in some cases are paid to show up there because of the reviews that are coming in and the assets or the investment that people are able to get put into it to show up on that page. Whereas even 10 years ago, just someone out there writing about their expertise were really able to have a decent showing on the internet and build a business that way. This is why I call it unselfish marketing, is because I still think this wins. I still think this wins over ads as we go out there and we're just trying to be helpful. We share our expertise. We tell everyone to do everything that we do. And if it helps them build their business, then everybody wins at the end of the day. If by some chance they can't do it themselves or don't want to do it themselves, they now know that we have the expertise and they can invest with us to do it for them. So even tonight, I'm going to show you every single thing that we do at Content Journey that clients hire us to do. I'm going to show you how we create a brief. I'm going to show you our checklist of when we publish things. I'm not holding anything back because there's no secret to it. And so why would I gatekeep something that there's no secret sauce to? And I hope that it helps people. And at the end of the day, it makes everything better. And we also have unintended consequences when we do this. I'm going to keep using you as an example, Mickey, because if you're if you're writing content every single day, and you're just out there helping people, and I don't know what your content is or what it covers, but if you're out there and you're creating content and you're sharing your expertise, several things can be happening. You're building a relationship with your audience. You might be creating more referral traffic. Okay, so I use a tree trimmer as an example a lot. So somebody's out there and they're just talking about the best ways to care for trees. And I take the time to read the blog and I go, okay, I can figure that out. I'm getting ready to lose this tree. It's going to fall on my house. But I've now read this blog. I'm following them on Instagram now. I follow their advice and I save my trees, or my tree that was going to fall on my house. Well, 3 months later, my neighbor is having the same issue. And I say, hey, go check out this tree trimmer who helped me save my tree. I did every single thing they said, and I was able to save my tree. So my neighbor looks at it and they go, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the time to do that. I'm not going to follow any of these steps. And what do? They call the tree person and they just pay the money to have them come out and save the tree. So it started out in an altruistic way of just like, here's what it does. And you have two separate scenarios. One where someone just saves their tree. And the second one where that person who you helped now refers their neighbors to come in and hires you. Next is increased brand reputation. So because you are creating content, it's going out on social media, maybe you have videos on YouTube, all of the different channels that it's going out, is you have all of these different touch points that are just continued opportunities for you to share your expertise and continue letting people know that you know what you're doing. So I think it was Jim, your wife is working on, I think you said quilting.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so she's working on quilting. What an amazing thing to talk about process of quilting and matching up patterns and choosing that. It's a highly complicated skill and one that many people don't do anymore. But there are so many like people who are interested in that, and maybe they're knitting and they're following these processes and they want to learn. And so what a great way for someone to take that a step further and create content around a skill that can continue to help her build brand reputation in a really fun way. And then finally, a streamlined sales process. So when we are creating content, especially on our website, we now have potential clients who are coming to us and they're better informed about who we are, what we do, what we offer, why we offer it the way that we do, and probably have FAQs that are answered all over the place. And so they're not having to go through a much longer sales process because we've answered so many of their questions already through content. So it's so many unintended consequences when we come to it with an unselfish perspective. We're establishing our authority in our industry by showing people what we know what we're doing. And I said this a while ago in the last one, because when I get a little ranty, when we're creating something and sharing it across all of our social channels, and then also sharing it to our email list. So I can talk about it in some ways because we do this I do this for myself at Content Journey, but we also do this on behalf of clients. And this is where I think it's great to talk to WordPress audiences, especially those of you here who are either listening live or listening to the recording later that want to be able to do this on behalf of clients. Is sometimes they have a hard stop because they're like, oh, I'm not sure that I want to be so self-promotional about myself. And this is where we just talk and say, you're not promoting yourself. You're literally just trying to help other people, and it can help them get around that barrier, even help ourselves get around that barrier of saying, I'm not just being braggy on the internet. I'm just trying to teach and share. I've learned something and I'm now trying to show other people how to do it. And not in a sales way, in a completely I'm just trying to be helpful way. And it's how I talk my clients through it all the time is I just say, you know something, you're an expert there. Let's help other people understand it too. And it can help them get through that barrier piece. Okay, so here's the part that some of you may be like, Lindsey, you're talking down to us. So I'm going to try to like get through this a little bit without offending anybody. And then if you want to learn more about SEO, there's the webinar that you can come to tomorrow. And if I talk down, I'm sorry. So do we need buzzword? Do we need SEO? Yes. It doesn't have to be complicated. We have been joking internally recently that I need to learn how to, I think maybe I don't remember who was our person that had the words, Michelle with the sticker. Was that
Trevor.
Stephen? Trevor would probably appreciate it, but we say like we don't half-ass anything at Content Journey. And so sometimes you have clients who go like they just want like the good enough stuff. And so like sure, sometimes the good enough is there, but sometimes like you have this, if you do the keyword research and you map the keywords and you do the planning, like that's the best path. But it doesn't have to be that way in order for you to still be successful. I have a hard time getting out of my head sometimes to be like, that's still okay. And so forgive me, but I will teach you some shortcuts. But if you come to me and you ask me about it later, I'll deny I ever said it, especially to my team. So generally speaking, right, here's my talk down to you part, and I'm sorry. SEO is taking steps to help a website or a piece of content rank higher on Google, right? Very generally speaking, we're not talking about our technical piece. We're not talking about all the research that goes into it. We're just trying to get us on page one. Tools that you can use. I added Yoast in there because we're in our WordPress group. There's also like Rank Math and some other plugins that can help us talk through this. I'm a SEMrush fangirl. So we use SEMrush on our back end for everything. Answer the Public is a super great place to start, especially if you aren't following a keyword path and you're just looking for ideas to blog about. Go to Answer the Public and find out what people are asking and go answer their questions on your site. Okay, I talked really fast. Are we ready to work on our blog post? Does anyone have any questions?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, feel free to interrupt or stop me, and we'll make this as really fun as we possibly can. Like this is where I'm geeky because this is the fun part. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow a single blog post. I'm going to show you as best I can, minus our keyword research and mapping components, how we create a blog post. And then I'm going to show you a real life one based on what we're going to do here and what happened to it over time and how it made, well, probably millions of dollars. So on the way we do it the best way is we start with a strategy. So we do the research and we follow the plan. And the most successful people always find that it works best when you have a strategy. So we have technical SEO on the back end, we have a keyword map on the front end. And when we do it, the pristine way, we are following that map, we're following the data. And when we follow the data and we let it guide us, it won't let us down. We know that. So yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So when you're putting together your strategy, is this like, oh, okay, this is the strategy. So if I wanted to go after wood turning clubs or whatever, I would develop my strategy with my keyword searches and all that other stuff. Or is this the strategy for each and every blog posting that you're talking about?
So from our example tonight, I'm going to talk you through one, but whenever you're doing it for your entire site or your entire business, you would look at all of it. So you would say wood turning industry, right? You would look at the industry, you would look at the competitors, you would look at the products, and then you would pick out all of your keywords that you would target for, let's say, 12 months at a time. So when we do it, we say, what's the keyword that goes to a homepage? What are the keywords that go to the service pages? And then what's the ongoing keyword strategy of blog posts? Because each of those blog posts at the end of the day lead back to a service or a product. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Tonight, I'm trying to illustrate it in like a very microcosm with one post. And then at the end, I'll show you how we calendar it and make it way more robust and grow it exponentially. So when we're creating our plan, we're identifying our keyword, we're defining the type of content and how it will be distributed and who is the audience. Now, we're assuming for our purposes tonight that we have created some kind of, like, we have a list of some type of keyword, right? Because there's no way for me to show you how to do a super robust keyword plan. I am going to show you some shortcuts in a little bit, so stick with me. But for right now, we're saying that we've pulled out our keyword from our map or from our plan or from our shortcuts in a moment. And for each keyword, we're now going to say, what is our type of content? Is this going to be a blog post, a service page? How are we going to distribute it? Meaning, is it going to go out to social media channels? Are we going to send it to an email list? How are we going to get it out to the world besides just publishing it? Because we need to do more than just put it on the website. And then who are we speaking to? So for wood turning customers, you may have more than one customer type. You may have someone that's just looking to buy one baseball bat, or you may have someone who's looking to buy a ton of baseball bats and resell them. I don't know. But you may have that different persona and make that exponential for any type of business that you have. And so each of these contents or pieces of content, and each of these keywords may very well speak to a different audience. Even for like content journey, as an example, we have two very distinct personas that we talk to, and we have their photos, they're made up photos, but we have their photos, we have their likes, and we know who we talk to with every single piece of content so that we know, like, this is going to David. We're speaking to David when we write this piece of content. And it just helps us speak directly to them so that our language hopefully speaks to the Davids of the world whenever they come to our website. So for our purposes tonight, we've chosen the keyword, what is WordPress? Thought that would be appropriate. It's going to be a blog post. We're going to publish it on the website, and we're going to send it to social channels. We're going to analyze this a little bit further later. And our audience is going to be beginning users or beginners. Any questions so far? Okay.
Nope, I think we're good. I'm still here. I'm just eating my dinner, so I'm off camera.
Awesome. So when we're thinking about different types of content, there are all of these choices. So we could say, we also want to make it into a case study. Oh, we could make this a worksheet. I don't know. We're going to also send it out to our SMS marketing campaign. So text messaging campaigns, or, whatever else there happens to be. We're trying to simplify it a little bit for our purposes this evening, but a keyword like what is WordPress probably needs a whole lot of pieces of content types associated with it. So a tip for anyone who's out there creating content now is to multi-purpose every single activity and piece of content that you're creating, because your audience is going to consume content in multiple places, and repeating content in different places isn't a bad idea. So I made a joke last week, and then on a podcast that I was doing, and as I made the joke, I realized it was really honest. So like, even for me, the only people who ever notice that I'm repeating content anywhere is really only my mother. Like, she's the only one that knows that I'm posting it on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'm emailing it out to everybody because she's the only one that's seen it in all of the places. No one else is as big of a fan of Lindsey Miller, our content journey, as she is. No one else cares as much. So I might feel really caught up in myself that I have to have incredibly unique content everywhere, or that I can't possibly post something on Twitter this week that I did 3 months ago. But the truth is, no one else is going to notice. And also, they may be in a different place. So just because I had something profound that I said 3 months ago doesn't mean that people couldn't consume it differently or actually resonate with them differently 4 months later. And so we're constantly scheduling social media posts or re-promoting old content to new people that sometimes does better the third time we send it out than it did the first time we sent it out. And no one has ever called me out for repeating content. And it lets us all off the hook just a little bit to do that. So as we're thinking through our What is WordPress blog post, and as we're getting ready to go through our next sets of creation, we want to think, should our post have video attached? Should it include images? Do we want an infographic, or is there anything else that should be a part of this blog post? And as I create content for clients, we do this every time. If we're creating like a piece of content or a blog post that has like the 5 things that you should know about X, that we're going to create an infographic every single time, because it's a process infographic and it's really easy to add to it, just to help illustrate differently that someone may really like to help them absorb the information differently. And we also get to share that differently on social media. It gets ranked on Google differently than the content does. And so we just think about this every single time as we start researching and creating our outline. What else needs to go to make this a better piece of content? So for us, as we're thinking about what is WordPress, and I was supposed to put this slide later, but that's okay. We're gonna add video to what we're doing. And then we're also going to go ahead and send it out to our email list, because we think for us, this is going to be a really good place for our audience to consume our content. And we think it's going to make a better piece of content to have video. So now that we've sort of thought about where our piece of content is, we're going to set our goals, because we want to know what is driving it as we're writing it, or even as we're outlining it. Because if we're going to take the effort to write and to create this, we better know what we want at the end of the day. Do we want traffic? Are we actually trying to make this convert? If it is trying to convert, what service or product is it converting to? Because we want to link it to that page. Are we just trying to get newsletter signups? Are we trying to get engagement? Meaning, are we trying to get people to share it? Are we just looking for brand awareness? So for something to go out there, people to read and like and continue to share with their friends. And so we have to know that ahead of time, so we know what we're writing in our content and what we're asking our readers to do with it. Otherwise, we don't have a point. We're just sharing it. For us, whenever we're thinking about what is WordPress, we chose this because we think this is going to be a really high value post. It's traffic. There's a lot of people out there who are searching what is WordPress on the internet. That's what our data has told us. We're assuming that's what we all know. Our data has told us a lot of people are saying what is WordPress. And so we're targeting traffic with our blog post tonight. So now we've determined our keyword. What is WordPress? We know our focus. We know who our audience is. We're going after beginners. And we know which channels we're going to send it out to. Now we get to do the fun part. We get to create. So every single piece of content that we do a content journey, and you'll see a lot of content creators out there talking about it, is they start with content briefs. And we do this for several reasons. I'm going to talk about it again. I love repeating myself whenever I get in flow. We start with a content brief because it's going to lower our writing time. And then if we outsource, we're giving people very specific direction on what exactly we want them to write. So here's our SEO shortcut for what is WordPress. If we do not have a search or keyword search and mapping plan, if you are just going, just want to write and I don't know what I want to write about, these are 3 places that I always start with. I go to Google because that's where everybody is anyway. And this also assumes that you don't have something like SEMrush or whatever. So if you just go in, I did this search, I type in what is WordPress. These are all of the associated questions that come up. So now I don't just have what is WordPress. I also have what is a WordPress plugin? Is WordPress free? I need a WordPress tutorial, and all of these other questions. On our search engine results page, there's the people also ask. And so now I have these other things. What is WordPress best for? What's the main function? And at the very bottom of our Google search are our related searches again. And so we have more things down here. Sometimes they're repeating, sometimes they're new. So what is WordPress hosting? Sometimes if I'm doing my good enough tricks of coming up with ideas, you can even just like start clicking into these or clicking into these, and more questions and more related searches will pop up, and you just start kind of copying them and populating them into a spreadsheet. And now you have, 20 ideas in the matter of 15 minutes on things that you can blog about that are related to whatever your original idea was. And that's sometimes a good enough content strategy. My cautionary tale will be is don't repeat yourself, don't repeat your keyword. And once you get into the place where you've created a ton of content, go ahead and reach out to somebody and get some help and do an audit and make sure that you're not cannibalizing yourself. But when you're starting out, this is a great place to start of just like, I want to write about something. I don't have a strategy. I don't have the money to invest, but I have the time, is just go to Google and start creating your own content place. Okay. So here's a little outline of a content journey brief. You can screenshot this if you want to. And so we say client, but obviously if that's you, but we fill this out every single time. Like, what's our length? Who's our audience? What's the intent? Because your intent changes every time, just like we talked about. What's the purpose? What are our keywords? We go ahead and fill out our titles. And then our outline, which we're going to build together in a moment separately. We put in research links here. We have internal links, meaning when I said the blog post that's going to a service page or to a product, where is our blog post linking to? Or are there other blog posts that help explain it where we need to have important internal links? And then if you have a style guide, a voice guide or something like that, then we have it here as well. Okay, so we're going to build our outline. I'm going to share my whole screen because I don't know how else to show you this except to just like continue to walk you through it. And then just stop me, because if I'm going to go too fast, because I do this all the time, please do. Okay, so I'm going to stop my share for a moment. And I'm not lying when I tell you all this. I don't get to train my team anymore, because one time I trained someone on this exact thing and she cried. So please don't cry. Okay. So just ask me questions and stop me and slow me down before you cry. It's not hard. Promise. Okay. I see at least Michelle shaking her head. Okay. So I've pulled up, and this is actually already filled out now. I named my business Lindsey Themes. But what I do whenever we create a brief is, this sounds so silly, but the first thing we do is we Google our keyword. What are the other top searches of our keyword? So I've typed in what is WordPress, and we have Keensta at the top. Here are those exact people also ask that I showed you in the screenshots. Here's iThemes, HubSpot, WordPress.com. You see WordPress.com is fourth. When we get to like the end of this story, you're going to find out why WordPress.com is fourth. Here's another box of people also search for, but we just look at it, honestly, is we just look at why are they at the top? So I'm like, okay, this is our first competitor is Keensta. Why are they here? What do they have involved in this blog post that I need to write that's better? Because I'm not trying to trick the system. Like that's not the game that I play in. That's not the type of SEO or content creation that I do. So if you're looking for tricks, that's not what I'm here to tell you. We just write really good content. So we go, what do they have here that we like? So they say, what kind of websites can WordPress make? Hey, that's a pretty good headline. Okay. So they have a bulleted list. Oh, look, they have a video. That's actually, see with the part where I said we need to add a video. It's because I saw this. So we need to add a video because the first result has a video. Okay, then now they're explaining the difference in .org and .com. Okay, that's a really good thing. And so as I'm going through here, truly, I'm starting to create my outline in my brief. And this could be separate for you. You could just have it in a regular Word document if you're writing. Another really great tool for writers is AirStory. When I used to work actually very adjacent to the place that Michelle's at now, and was doing a lot of content marketing, I used AirStory a lot and would just sit there and create my outline in AirStory this exact same way, of going and looking at all of the best blog posts that were in the top search results and figuring out how I could write it better than them. So here's the history of WordPress. So I've also added that down here somewhere, I think. If not, I would add that in here. Yeah, okay, we can figure out, we'll see, history theme, we'll add it here. So we were saying which are our history of WordPress. Maybe I'd put it up higher if I was really thinking about it and not being on the spot with all of you watching me type. Benefits of, how does it work? Yeah, I'd probably put it here. And see how I'm putting my headlines here, just so I know ahead of time, like this needs to make hierarchy sense. I don't know. So I'm having like the appropriate H3s and H2s. If I have an H4 here, it's because I'm listing free themes under my free themes heading. And so all of that is an important part for two reasons. One is we need to write content that can be read just like we are when we're looking at this Keensta post. We're just reading these headlines, right? So we need to write like that too. And so we do that in our outline to help prepare us so that we know ahead of time, like, okay, this is the headline and this is what's going to go underneath it. So you just get to come back to this and be prepared. So anyway, so then we go back, let's just pretend like we looked through this and we grabbed the important pieces. Again, we're not taking their content. We're not plagiarizing their paragraphs. We're not even fully taking their headline. We're just saying, like, what are some themes that are in each of these blog posts? Is there something that's in the second one, this iThemes one, that's not in the first one? Look, there's another video. So we definitely know we have to have a video. So they're saying, what is a WordPress website? They also have some screenshots and some bullet points. WordPress features. They're using some statistics in here about how many people are using WordPress. Oh, there's another WordPress.com versus WordPress.org explainer. I don't think I have that one over here. So maybe we would say, like, let's add the history of WordPress. Maybe that's a good H3 under here. .com versus .org of explaining that. Maybe that makes sense in our blog post. And so we just repeat this over and over and over again for all of the, I typically say top 10 search results. I'm not going to look at a Wikipedia post because that's not really going to be relevant to our search competitors anyway. But I would look at, WP 101. I'm not going to look at WordPress.org either. DreamHost, Namecheap. I'm going to look at all of those blog posts and say, what are they doing that's really good? What information do they have that other ones don't have? And just go back to my outline and go, oh yeah, I should totally explain who Matt Mullenweg is. Oh yeah, like, well, yeah, we should talk about this thing, and just sit there and just keep continuing to add to my outline until I have the most robust piece of content out there and give Google a great reason to rank me and give people a reason to read it. When we have huge content like this, as soon as I realize I have this many headings, I'm absolutely going to have a table of contents at the top to make it a little bit more user friendly. That's just another aside for each of you to think through. But this is what we do as we start building our brief. I have a tool that tells me how many words to include on each of my pieces of content. There are lots of free tools out there as well. I suggest it. They're one of the, I don't know, things that I see people do, or a mistake I see people do, are to get this far, start writing, and end up with like 700 words. Well, when we're trying to create the best piece of content out there and show our expertise, and then we end up with, 5 paragraphs, there's no way that we're going to be able to compete and search with that, because we just can't give people the answers that they want, especially when we're seeing that our competitors have so much more. So I use a tool that shows me what's the average post link for my keyword. And then that's what we do for every single piece of content that we create, is make sure that we hit that average. So that goes in here. And then I put my audience in here. Like I put 20 years old plus. We have a wide range of people that are new to WordPress that are going to be reading this post. Our intent is to educate. I put purpose just to inform. Primary keyword is here. Sometimes we can use our secondary keywords. I'm not going to overcomplicate anything for tonight. But if you have familiarity with that, you can absolutely put that here and then start adding them into your outline to make sure that they're included in the right places. We also go ahead and put in our research links. So if we're going to be putting in the percentage of usage, then let's go ahead and put in our sources here, and all of that information. I just copied this. I didn't even verify any of those resources, because look, those are even like 2 different percentages. So we're not going to judge me on that. And then down here, I go ahead and I write my meta description, just because like I'm already in the zone. I'm looking at everybody else's. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in my outline and in my brief, so that I already have an idea of what I want to say. Excuse me. And what's good too is like you can look at in our search results, you can look at everybody else's meta descriptions. So like, this is what Kingsta has to say. This is iThemes. This is HubSpot's. And so we can see what they're saying in their optimized descriptions to get an idea of what we even want to say in ours. I think it's hilarious that Wikipedia's even mentions like their like hypertext preprocessor language in MySQL. But and you get an idea of like why we're already here, we're already looking at it. You might as well go ahead and put it in your brief and in your outline, just to start having that as part of what you're thinking to create. Okay. Any questions about brief or outline? Okay.
So this is Trevor.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I realize you're going for a long post here, but this seems like very encyclopedic. It seems like there's lots and lots and lots of information there. At what point would you take this idea that you have and say, okay, maybe I need to do 2 different posts or 3 different posts and start breaking it out? Is it word count? Is it just breadth of topic?
So I think you ask 5 different people working in SEO and content, and we're probably all going to have different answers. I honestly think 6 months ago, I would have said, oh yeah, let's do a series of blog posts that all tie to each other. I've actually done this for clients, and then we can even make it all into one and make it into a larger ebook. But since Google's helpful content update, the algorithm has been rewarding these all-encompassing posts. So we've actually been going back and taking any of these smaller posts and putting them into one comprehensive post, and then making it more user-friendly with the table of contents. You are right, Stephen, that this is a very like, probably whenever this post that we're going to talk about was originally written in 2013, it probably wasn't nearly as encyclopedic as it is now. But as the key, this specific keyword became such a high target and high value, it just like had to have so much more added to it. If we were to use something, less competitive, we could, be talking about 1,800 words and something way more casual.
Okay. So I'm thinking for my own stuff. So I teach physics, and I've been thinking, so I'm doing some of these as blog posts. I'm doing some of them as lessons under an LMS. And I'm wondering, okay, do I want to have a bite-sized piece and then move on to the next bite-sized piece? Or should I be thinking more at this point with the updates and so on, having more of a chapter type of an idea for each page?
Are you talking about on the blog post part, not on what's behind your LMS?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would lean towards the more chapter piece for your blog post, and then pushing towards the here's where I'm teaching it, and it's here's how I'm teaching it, and here's what it looks like. And you might even do you do videos on your LMS?
I do.
You're talking, yeah, that's a really interesting way too of like showing the first minute of the lesson as a preview in that blog post. And then that is the call to action to go watch the rest of it. So they can kind of get a style for your teaching too.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. That might be fun if we have time, Michelle, is to go over we can like look up their posts and their keywords, and we can just look it up in SEMrush and like diagnose stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's just stop this and do that. That's so fun. I love that.
I like this process. I write articles for a technical journal, and I never thought about doing the keyword search for the article, and it's like I'm knee deep in one right now, and it's like, oh, I think I'm going to go do this and just see what the topics are and add it to my article.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can even look at ones that you've already published. And SEMrush, again, I'm a fangirl of SEMrush. There's lots of ones out there, like $100 a month. And so you can go in there and you can use that to analyze the ones that you've published. And obviously like more features is higher, but for our agency, we use that one. And you can go in there and be like, okay, what posts have I done on accident? What keywords are they bringing? And then you can optimize or re-optimize. We have a financial client, for example, who was bringing traffic because of toilet paper to their site because he was making a joke about toilet paper. And then he just had and it was like the wrong traffic. And so we had to go in and like make changes, but we would have never known if we wouldn't have gone in. But that was when he was just like, he was writing content, he was doing it, but he was accidentally bringing the wrong traffic. Okay, are we ready? Let's get through this part so we can get to the fun stuff, because now that sounds really fun. Okay, so when I'm doing briefs and outlines, internally we have a 20-minute rule. When the team saw that I put that on the slide for you all, they said that I shouldn't say it because it would be intimidating. So I added this part. So it doesn't have to be your rule. But you can tell how easy it is to get consumed in all of this data and to start like looking at all of those blog posts and like really get in your head about it. So at the very minimum, set yourself a timer of 30 minutes when you're building your outline or whenever you're starting to think about your content, because you shouldn't be spending a ton of time doing your research. You should be spending time sharing your expertise. So don't spend too much time on this part of the process. Oh, this is the part I told you I was going to repeat myself, but isn't the slide pretty? So Bree's going to cut down on our writing time. And then if you have somebody else help you, you're giving them the right direction. Okay, so here's the pieces on writing. And it sounds like I have lots of writers that are with us today. But if your writing is more like this, here are some tips. Like if you get in front of your keyboard and it's just not your jam, you can use text to speech software. So even just in Google Docs, you can pull that up and you can just write about your expertise. If you're one of the people who's driving to work, you can use car time and pull up rev.com or voice memo and use that time to talk about whatever the subject is supposed to be. So still think about your outline in your mind when you're doing text to speech, or when you're using your voice memo, but it just sometimes helps the flow a little bit easier. I prefer to write even as much as I ramble when I talk. But if this is something that makes it easier for you, however you're creating the content is okay. Get your transcript, edit your transcript, send it to an editor, send it to an assistant, and now you have a great piece of content. But don't forget about the video we have planned for this piece of content. So we could just record a webinar and our webinar can become our blog post. And now we have that multi-purpose content that we talked about too. We already know for what is WordPress that we need a video in that. So if you've discovered that in your research process, do a webinar. I all the time, as hard as it is to admit, do webinars to like one person or two people. My mom probably, right, is showing up. But it's never wasted time if no one is there because I've prepared, I've created my topic, my slides are there. I record. I never plan a webinar and no one show up and not do it. I'm still going to record it. I'm going to put it on YouTube and I'm going to turn it into another piece of content. And so if this is something that you've determined as part of your research, go ahead, do a webinar and then make that your written content. Okay. So this is, I know, a really big thing. But here's our writing checklist. Again, if you want to take a screenshot, you can. So whenever we're writing a piece of content, so we have our what is WordPress, we're going to use that in the first 100 words of our blog post. We're going to use short sentences. Now, remember how I was telling you earlier, I'm like, we're experts. Let's showcase our expertise. This is the part where we have to be like, we're really smart. We can talk about physics, but we have to be able to teach physics to fifth graders. Right. So the way we show our expertise is to be able to speak plainly. So sometimes it doesn't feel totally congruent. Look at me. That was not a fifth grade word. But that's how we show it is we use our fifth grade words, our third grade words. And that's how, because the average reading level of people in the United States is fifth grade. And so when we're speaking to people on the internet, we need to speak where they are and not serve ourselves by sounding really smart, even while we're trying to create authority and brand awareness and showcase our expertise. This is one of the hardest things that we do when we talk to clients all the time is when we write for them and they're like, you've dumbed us down. And we're like, no, we're showcasing expertise by being able to explain it in simple terms. So anyway, so keep this in mind. We're going to use short sentences. One paragraph is one idea. That's why whenever we look at really well done posts, let's go back and look at this Keensta post. Their content is fantastic. Look at how short some of these paragraphs are. Like, they are not afraid to have a, what is that, 7-word sentence. That's because it's really easy to digest this content, how they have this written this way. So as we're doing that, we're going to have really short paragraphs. We're going to use that ordinary language. We're going to use bullets and numbers when appropriate. And we're going to cover our topic fully, because that's how we're showing people that we're experts, as we're talking about the topic as best we can. We're ensuring that our writing is scannable, just like we were doing when we were researching those blog posts. We need to write it in the exact same way, so that if someone were to come to our blog post and only read the headlines, that they know what we said by the end of it. Like, that's sort of our internal checklist at CJ, is if I read your headlines, I need to know what you wrote about. Never ever plagiarize ever for any reason. I don't know why we keep having to say that, but it is. We do plagiarism checks when people write for us. You're always going to include a CTA of some kind, so call to action, no matter what that happens to be. Follow me on social, please share this with friends. It doesn't always have to be a sale. Like my video, that's why all those people, like and follow. Like my kids say that now. I take a video of them and they're like and follow. I'm like, anyway, so like they get the CTA stuff. We're going to make sure we have that optimized meta description, which means we're using our keyword in the meta description. Naturally, we're not writing to the robot, we're writing to humans so that they can read it. We're not over optimizing, which means we're not just stuffing a bunch of keywords in there. What is WordPress is not going to go into our post 57 times. Nobody wants to read what is WordPress over and over and over again. We're going to speak to our customers. And then finally, just have somebody else do a final edit. I know that sounds really easy, but have somebody else look at it one more time before you publish it. It's easy to edit in WordPress, obviously. Mistakes are made, it's okay. But have somebody else look it over before you publish it. Like I said, SEMrush is where I am. Here's this link. I'll put it in the chat. Let me see if I can click on it. It didn't let me click on the chat. It took me way back. I'll put it, let's see if I can, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I'll pull it up in a minute. But this is my fangirl Giphy. But this is how to create an SEO friendly content with SEMrush. And that's a really great article. And they have some checklists in there that honestly covered a whole lot of what we do internally. And so I'll make sure that Michelle gets that to share with all of you. And so now we've written our blog post and it's time to publish. And I have another checklist for you here. So obviously WordPress makes it super easy. We write everything in a Google Doc. That is because it's easy to collaborate. We can see edits, we can make suggestions, all of that sort of thing. And also because, especially in WordPress, we can copy and paste directly from a Google Doc into WordPress admin. So it's like really easy. It keeps all of our formatting. It keeps our headings. It keeps bullets. We don't have to reformat anything. So it saves a ton of time. Obviously there's plugins to help with this too. There's PublishPress and other ones as well. I haven't found anything better than just using straight up Google Docs, from collaboration and writing straight to publishing. Then use your plugin, Yoast or others, making sure to set your primary keyword. You're optimizing your meta description and your title. I said lower here, but most of the time you don't need to change the URL. A lot of these posts that you read are like, optimize your URL. I think that's horrible advice. Your website should already be set up, your WordPress site, to like not include the date and just be like the title of your blog post. So as long as your title is where it needs to be, you shouldn't be making changes to your URLs all the time. If your site isn't set up the wrong way, like I said, come to contentjourney.com. We'll look at it together and we can look at those URLs and we can just get them set so that you shouldn't be changing that. Then add your images to your post with the correct alt text. Now, used to, people would use alt text as a gimmick and they would stuff it with keywords to get their post to rank. We don't do that anymore. If anyone does that for you, tell them to stop. Alt text is used for people who use screen readers to be able to consume that content. And Google wants their customers to be happy. Their customers are searchers, so we make the searchers happy by using the image's alt text to describe the image as if we're trying to consume the image. If a keyword happens to be there, like let's say our keyword is like wood table and the picture has a wooden table in it, then by all means do that. But we don't, I personally, I should say, this is my personal opinion. I do not put keywords in every single image anymore, unless that keyword happens to be in the image. We just describe it. Then set your proper category. Again, categories are meant for people to be able to find the category that's appropriate to them. Category is not an SEO term. And so like, let's say that for what is WordPress, that we set that as a category because someone told us that categories were SEO. Now our what is WordPress search term is competing with our category term. Now I'm speaking to robots and not humans because the humans don't care, but Google does care, and that's very confusing for them. So categories should not be keyword specific. They should be generalized categories. So for example, on the content journey site, we have like email marketing, content marketing, I don't know, SMS marketing, general education. I don't know, something like that are our categories, so that no matter what our primary keywords are, they're never competing with our categories. And a note on tags. So same thing with tags. Tags can compete with your SEO value on the back end because they're getting indexed as well. So sometimes people are like, they set multiple categories and then they put all kinds of tags on their posts. Well, they're just competing with your keywords. It's going to confuse the robots on the back end. So one general category, and for the most part, no tags. Only if you like have a really, really large site. I don't know, maybe Mickey, if you've been publishing every single day, maybe you need to have some tags. We'd have to look at it. But for the most part, I would say like no tags. And if you do, don't just go in and delete them. They need to be redirected. Again, come and have a meeting with me and we can talk through it. Okay. Finish the rest of this. So checking all of your links, looking at your internal links, looking at your external links, making sure that they're opening. If it's an internal link, it can open in the same window. If it's an external link, open in a new window. Yeah. Okay. Then we publish, and now we're doing what we said we would do. We're going to share it to our social channels. And we share our posts to our social channels, not because we're trying to build up the social channel, but we're trying to get people from the social channels to our website. And then we're going to send it to our email list so that we can inform them too, so that they come to our website, because our website's what we own. We don't own Facebook. We don't own that algorithm. We own our site. We own the message there. So that's why we want people to continue to come to our site. And then we're going to track our results. We're going to see if it worked. Are our KPIs effective? What is happening over time? And this is why, like, I'm the organic content lover that I am, is because our blogs can increase in value so much over time. And so we want to look at it. We want to see what that time investment did, so that we can feel proud of what we did and what we were accomplishing. I am constantly adding analytics to people's sites, even people who know what they're doing. So if you do not have analytics, Bing Webmaster Tools, and Search Console on your site, if you learn nothing else from tonight, go get all of those set up, because you have to have that on your site. Okay, so let's see what happened to our little blog post. So this was based on a true story. The What is WordPress blog post was published in early 2013 on a little site called ithemes.com. And whenever they published it, no one else really had published a What is WordPress blog. And by March of 2013, that blog post had 95 visitors. And so over the years, I'm going to pull up the history of it. Over the years, you can see it started to grow. Took a while. Look, by 2015, there were 17,000 people a month coming to one blog post. By April 2017, you have 88,000 people a month coming to one blog post. And continuing on. So you can see how this is. Oh, that was my root domain. Sorry, exact URL.
It was a little blog post that could.
It was a little blog post that could. And then let's see, and it competes with major sites. So when I'm trying to think of like 2017 or 18, when Google Home came out, you could go, hey, Google, what is WordPress? And she would answer with ithemes.com says, this is what WordPress is. So it was beating out WordPress.org, WordPress.com, and all of those others, to where our search results then went. Sorry, here's the one thing. There we go, 60,000, 80,000. I was like, that's a whole lot. Here's our one little blog post. And then I can't say what happened to iThemes after 2019 2020, but obviously that little blog post, but still was bringing, 29,000 and 21,000, 34,000 to that one blog post. And so that impact and that investment compounds. It's like a 401k or a stock. You are investing one time in the creation of that blog post. And then if you're multiplying that across your site, so like you're blogging every single day, or even twice a week or once a week, what's happening to that value that you've now created? So sure, did it take us, let's say, 45 minutes to create our outline? Did it take us another hour and a half to write our blog post and another 30 minutes to publish and get it on the social channels? Absolutely. But I bet that iThemes blog post, I guarantee you it made that company millions of dollars. And you say like they were publishing tons of content. And so let's say they were publishing 200 blog posts a year. How do you put a value on that for your own business or even for clients' businesses on little blog posts? And I go back to Ava asking if people still read on the internet. Yeah, absolutely, they do. And it's why I get so excited. That's me with looking at my little blog post. Every single time I look at analytics and I get so excited. And so this is when we talk, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we create content calendars. We create the keyword strategy. This is what I would suggest for all of you as you're thinking about your content, even if you're doing it in the good enough way of going to the Google search box and coming up with those 20 topics, is creating calendars. So, I mean, this is the content journey marketing initiative, and like our original calendars is kind of broken up in screenshots so that it fits here. But we have our monthly focuses, we have our newsletters, we have it all that works together, our webinars, and we put it all on our calendar, including our blog post and our keywords. And so this is a client site that I used as an example. So like these are all promoting blog posts across their social channels. And so that we can put it on a calendar and know exactly when everything is going out, what we're saying, what the, oh, that's actually not, that's content journey. I thought that was the client's. I was like, why does it say Lindsey Miller everywhere? That's ours. This is a client's. But that way we know everything that's going out. But creation really is the hardest part of all of it. We all love talking about ideas. We all love brainstorming. Like, it's what I love too. That's why I can't wait to get done talking so that we can pull up SEMrush and look at all of your sites. But it really is the creation part that is the hardest. And so if you can just set yourself down, set those timers and work through that, doing the planning part, then everything else just falls into place. And just think about the little blog post that could. I tried so hard to find a Thomas the Train Giphy and I couldn't find one. But that's it. There's our story, everyone. What questions do you have? What things can we look up?
I have a random little question that Michelle may actually be better suited to answer, but either one of you. You said for external links, they should open in a new tab, but accessibility wise, I've heard some pushback on that for some users, that's a problem. And I'm curious what you guys think really the best practice is there. I know we all want people to stay on our site, but then we also break their back button for people that have certain needs. So yeah, I'm curious, what y'all think.
I've heard both ways. And for me, it kind of depends on what it is and where I'm embedding the link as to how I have it behave. Like for our post status for our Black Friday, Cyber Monday list, we had over 200 on that list. And so I had them all open in a different tab so that people could continue to go down the list. But when I embed things in an article, I tend not to do that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the same thing. I mean, there are definitely, I think it's appropriate to say, like, what are we writing about and what is it leading to? What's our anchor text and what are we talking about? It's hard to speak in generalities. and these types of things. But yeah, I totally agree. I hear the same thing with this accessibility situations. Yeah, I think it depends on the content.
Lindsay, can you turn off your GIF there? It's very distracting.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go back over here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that this article is like still going strong. I know maybe not 80,000 anymore, but that it's still producing. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt that I work at the same company that owns my teams now, so it makes me
Right.
happy. But yeah, that's super cool. And it really does kind of speak to the tenacity of really good SEO work. And
Heck yeah.
and owning your content, right? So like obviously the best content is content people want to read and things that people are looking for. So like gone are the days of keyword stuffing and things like that. And when the first time I ever learned about like keywords, it was like do white text on your white background and bury it in the bottom of your page. And it was like,
Yes.
oh, that's what people do. Okay, I could do that, you know.
It worked so
Right.
good for a little while, like in 1998. So.
Uh-huh.
Very brief moment in time. It was something that-
Right.
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. My spouse, he used to brag that he had broke the Technorati, like back when that was a thing, 100 or something. And it was like a really big deal. But honestly, it was just because he was making themes back then. And in the footer was a link to his site. And so like, because that link was there and there were all those themes that were being sold, that's how he broke the Technorati deal, was because of that. And so that's even a thing now. If you're making sites for people, you don't really even link back to your own site from the footer. That's not even a best practice like it used to be, right? Because it was a way of cheating the backlink things.
But it was cheating your
yeah.
clients even back then too, though. So I don't think it was ever a good thing. If you're
Yeah.
selling a theme, maybe, but on sites you build, yeah,
Right.
smells
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Does anybody want me to look up one of their pieces of content
I want to see you look
or
up
one of their
some content.
keywords?
I volunteer, Trevor. I don't know.
Okay.
Now, who has some blog content that we can take a look at?
I'm not volunteering, but I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we don't open something in a new, like an external link in a new tab, what do you suggest so that people would come back to your site and stay on it? Or is that just like part of it now that you have an external link, so there's always the chance that people aren't going to come back?
Yeah, I think that's just part of it. You know, Rebecca Gill, who basically taught me everything that I know about SEO, she's absolutely brilliant. From Web Savvy Marketing, she has a lot of education stuff now. You can look her up. She prefers no external links in text. So she actually doesn't do any linking out. And instead, if she wants to or needs to, she will do them as resources at the bottom of the post, instead of it being in the text. And so for some clients, we actually do that. And we'll even do like little, what's the subtext, or what's the, like the little numbering system. My brain's fried right now. I
Footnotes.
apologize. Yeah, exactly. So they can go down and say like, okay, the number one source is this, and then they can go and find that link so that it's still technically sourced there, especially with statistics or something like that, or quotes, but she doesn't link it within the text any longer.
So it's more like the old school writing, how we were taught to use.
Yeah,
this
like
system,
APA.
sources or whatever.
All right, I'm
Thank
gonna volunteer a post that I wrote at Post Status. So I did this one, the 5 days without a shower one. That was like my most recent big post that got a lot of attention. So feel free to tear it apart, Lindsay.
Here's a question too that we missed earlier, about why we have two distinct audiences.
Oh yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah. So for us at Content Journey, we speak to two different personas, and technically three, but we don't do a lot of content writing to the third. But we talk to entrepreneurs who are still sitting in the marketing seat and who are ready to hand it off because they can choose one of our packages, and we take that on for them. Second, we talk to like a CMO or a director of marketing, because we can come on as part of their team and offload some of their work and just be there as their helper, but we speak differently to them. So a helper is very different than offload all of it. Our third is we also speak and do a lot of white labeling for agencies. But we don't do a whole lot of content writing to that group. But we might do a lot of email writing to them. So we still have that persona that's built up. And so if we have like lead magnets that speak to them or social media ads and that sort of thing, then we have that persona that's done too. And so we speak very differently to agency owners because we know to capitalize the P if we talk about WordPress to them, right? Or, you know what I mean? We can speak a little bit differently or use more distinct language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was me that asked that. I was curious. Actually, I wasn't curious. I was just surprised when you said that because I had just recently heard someone mention the idea of two, I said audiences, but I knew it was in my head, it was personas. But theirs were, they had a different approach. It wasn't so much like the actual like CEO or whatever. It was more like the stages that they were in. Like if they were just like a beginner, or if they were, you know, more familiar with the topic, or so.
Yeah.
I was curious of which kind of way that you were going with that. So that makes total sense.
Yeah. I mean, I would say most of our blog content, I mean, you have like the buying funnel, right? Is really meant to educate those two audiences. I don't think it necessarily leads to a lot of selling. So I mean, you can go look at our blog and it's just very educational. And then we have other content that goes in different areas, or like if somebody opts into specific webinars, the follow-up sequence that goes with the emails speaks into different ways. But we follow that unselfish marketing like philosophy. And so it's not a whole lot of sales focused stuff
Right.
for us.
Cool. Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Michelle,
Okay.
let's see but I mean, when you wrote this post,
Mhm.
you weren't targeting anything.
Well, I did fill out Yoast and do all of the little work for it. So
Yeah.
there was nothing really targeted, but it doesn't really, nothing you can see.
We could play with, we could play, sometimes we do something like this, like look up Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And we can look at, or even like HubSpot and look at some of their stuff. That might be a fun one.
Okay.
Let's go look at one of their very specific blog posts. I'm not going to look at their entire site. But we can look at, let's see, everything we need to know about sales commission. Look at that. And see how that's really streamlined in their URL, where it's like, it's sales and then sales commission. So they're obviously like, they've changed their URLs to where like our best practice would be like just showing the title. But HubSpot's sophisticated. They're going to know that they don't have anything else that says sales commission, which I find really hard to believe. You know, they only have one post on their entire site that is talking about that. Okay, let's see. This is going to be, okay, so this is fun. Okay, so this is one they've redone. Okay, so they originally posted it back in 2019, and so they've updated it a couple of times. And so they probably updated it somewhere here and then updated it again here and then updated it again now. So let's look at their keywords. Those are good positions. So see, like this is, we do a lot of content audits. We just did a webinar on content audits recently. This is a super secret thing. This will be good for you, Mickey, and anyone else who's been creating content for a really long time, is to do an audit of all of your existing content and go back and figure out, instead of creating new, which ones just need to be updated or which ones need to be pulled together to re-optimize. Because like this, like those spikes that I was just showing you, that's what the content audit will pull up. So yeah, so see, this is all the exact same URL, and look at all these different keywords and the difficulty that it's pulling in. Let's look at the position. Wrong way. This is why I love SEMrush. Okay, so these are all of these keywords are pulling in position 1 to go into this same URL, and like variations of traffic too. So like, you know, some volumes 30, and then coming down here to even, you know, 1900 people. And then do you all know like about search intent when you're writing your posts as well? We're sort of, okay, we kind of figure that out whenever we're doing our original like outline and brief writing, when we're looking at our top 10 posts originally for whatever keyword it is. So like if we look at sales commission keyword, you can kind of figure out what the intent is. So if somebody's Googling your keyword, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get information? Are they trying to navigate somewhere? Typically that's a brand name. So if somebody's typing in Stellar WP, they're wanting to find Stellar WP. So it's a navigational. If somebody's Googling size 9 red shoes, that's a commercial intent. They're wanting to make a purchase. So if somebody's just Googling just 2 words like sales commission, that's probably an information, which is what SEMrush is telling us. So the intent is informational for all of these keywords. So for our blog posts, and we're figuring that out by looking at our search results, when we're creating our page, is we're like, okay, this is the search intent that we need to match. So for example, if we were to write a blog post about, I don't know, sales commission as our keyword, and the idea was to sell our course on sales commission, we wouldn't be ranked for that, because Google's customers, remember, they're the people we have to make happy, and they're Googling to look for information. They're not Googling to buy something. So if we're going to write to them on that keyword to buy something, Google's not going to give it to them. Does that make sense? Okay. Red shoes is probably a better one of saying it. Somebody's looking for, you know, size 9 red shoes, and then I'm explaining why shoes are red. Google's not going to put that on search results page, because that's not what they want. They don't care about why they're red. They just want to buy a pair of shoes. Yeah, this is, I mean, HubSpot does such a good job. They've really started owning the content marketing space on every single keyword they want to. Yeah, we should look, I mean, even looking at the history of this post, probably their position changes. Yeah, look at all of those improved. Like they, whenever they were making their updates, they were really going after some keywords there. Anyway, okay. Now I'm just entertaining myself. I won't keep doing this. I don't want to waste y'all's time.
That's all good.
What
Anybody
would
have
you like?
any other questions
Michelle?
for Lindsay? Yeah. Usually at the end, when we have time like this, we also open it up to any questions that aren't necessarily on the topic. So if people have other questions about anything WordPress related, Lindsay probably knows answers too. And of course, we got the rest of the brain trust in the room. So if there's other ideas, comments, questions, bring them on. Or we can call it an early night, which is fine too.
This one is probably more from Mike, Mike Noter. Mike runs a nice WooCommerce meetup that I have not been able to attend in quite a while, unfortunately. But I ran into a WooCommerce gotcha, I guess. I had, on my account, I have, standard. It was $7 shipping, except for one item, which I used to charge $50 for because it's big and it's heavy. Well, when the postal rate started to go up, I, changed it from $7 to $8, And then when my first order came in for my big item, it was $51 for postage. And I'm like, that's odd, and I didn't think much about it. And it turns out that there's a category, I guess, that you set for, the $50 item, so that if you sell this item, what's the fee going to be? Well, it turns out it's some price plus what your standard fee is equals the $50. So I would have had to put in $43 plus the $7 equals $50. And so when I changed it to $8 for the standard shipping, it now added up to $51. Now I wanted to raise it to $55 for that item. So I had to change it to, $48 or $47 plus the $8 gives me the $55. So it was a real odd way, and I fought that thing for a couple of weeks trying to figure it out, and it finally dawned on me in the middle of the night one night. It's like, oh, that's what it is. It's just adding the two numbers together. But I don't know if you've ever seen that before, Mike. I just thought I'd throw that out.
I
Because I
have
haven't-
not. I have not, but shipping and taxes are always a problem. You're probably using just WooCommerce Core plugin.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people use shipping plugins. It works a lot better. They're getting better. I'd have to kind of look at it, but yeah, there's stuff like that comes up all a little. You got to get the zone set right. You got to. It's just.
Yeah, I keep it. I'm fairly low volume, so I just keep it simple.
Yeah, and you're moving big items too. So I mean, heavy items. So and shipping is.
It's either very light or the majority of my stuff is very light, and then the one item's heavy, and it's in a big, it's in a 2-foot box. So I mean, it's a good size.
Don't you sell spindles or something? Don't you sell?
Well, yeah, but when I sell a spinning wheel, it's a big box.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything else fits in a 4x4 by 12-inch box. So
the WooCommerce shipping is it's kind of, I have to kind of hunt and peck. Each issue you have to look at it individually. I can't get a blanket statement to it, but the real WooCommerce experts that show up to my group, they can usually sort through that in a hurry. What your issues, you shouldn't have to be out having to figure out, okay, what it's going to do automatically. You should be able to set the shipping amount that'll just be added to the cost of the automatically to whatever the cost of the product is. You should be able to do that, right? You shouldn't have to do mental.
I mean, my shipping has worked perfectly for what I need. It works just fine. But it was just when I wanted to raise the price because of the postal fees going up, it kind of threw things, wacky for a couple of weeks until I sorted it out. And then, then I realized what was happening, because I just, I was trying to, where's this? Where did I set this number? I mean, in no place had I put $50 in for the big item. It turns out it was 43 and 7. So.
Yeah, there's a little quirk within it. It can be sorted out so you don't have to do that, but I'd have to look at it directly. Well, anyway, incidentally, I'm getting ready to present to the San Diego WordPress meetup on WooCommerce here in about, I don't know, an hour, 50 minutes. And it's the shipping and the taxes are always the one. So how do I explain it to these people?
Right.
It's just, I usually recommend you get a dedicated plugin. It'll make your life a lot easier, but it sounds like you have it.
Yeah. It works just fine for what I'm doing, but I just haven't been able to make your Wednesday afternoon meetings for
no worries, man.
A month or two.
It's always good to see you. We're getting about 20 now, 18, 20 or something like that.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this out to you.
Yeah, I've come across that kind of stuff before. It's just WooCommerce is improving. It's getting better. It's way better than it was 5 years ago, but we're a little off the meeting topic there with Woo. So,
other questions, ideas?
Yep. So I have a question. So Lindsey, you were saying about 30 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't remember the exact number. I have it written down for writing your brief. How much time do you spend then actually writing the article? Is it double that, triple that, half of that? I could see that if you have a good outline, that, you know, it could be pretty quick.
Yeah. So when I was doing this, when I was just like in the corporate world, like I said, I used Air Story was the
Mhm.
tool that I used. And I essentially would like go out and like kind of do my research and create my outline and then just start my writing. And when I did that for myself, my goal was always less than 2 hours for everything. But typically it was something that I had somewhat of an idea about what I was talking about. And so it was in my wheelhouse. And it was really just a way to keep me on deadline. Otherwise, like I could write forever on a topic. So yeah, that was just how I did it.
Okay. And so you tried to set a limit for yourself so that you didn't go on. So
Yeah.
next semester, I'm on sabbatical and I intend to work on my website and pump a lot of stuff into it. And I'm just looking for ideas on where to go. Your outlining idea is great. You know, I've thought about topics, but I haven't thought the SEO part of it. And is part of what I want to do. Obviously, I want to help the students who are in my classes, but I also want other people to find it to come
Yeah.
in. So, you know, maybe I bring a student to Finger Lakes. Maybe I get a private tutoring type of a gig from it. So thank you for all the information that you gave.
You're welcome. A plus one to that is something that I didn't realize until I got hot and heavy into all of this, is that we get so deep into our own vernacular that we use those words and it's not the ones that other people are using for search.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if physics is that same way. But even I was just got out of grad school in 2020. I went back to school and I had to go do like statistics, which was hard for a writer to do. And so I remember like going to Google and getting this little caveman book to teach you like comics statistics. It was actually quite helpful. But I'm trying to like put myself in that if I was trying to learn physics now and what I would say in a search bar. And so there might be some mismatch there of what you think people are putting in and what they're actually asking. And so that might be worth your time too, of just discovering and figuring out what that might be.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
Great. Well, Lindsay, if there's no other questions, I want to say thank you so much for taking a few hours out of your evening tonight, but also all the prep time that you put into your presentation today and sharing that with our community. I will get it shared out on YouTube, so everybody who wasn't able to make it will be able to see it, and those who were can refer back to it. So thank you so much. I appreciate
My
your time.
pleasure.
Should we all scream now? Ah!
Oh my
I
God,
think
right?
so.